And then you get a piece like this in the New York Times. I don't really know how to characterize this piece other than saying if Andrew Ross Sorkin was working in the PR department of some trade organization that represented these investment banks, Morgan Stanley, Wells Fargo, he couldn't have done a better job. Nowadays, Wall Street saviors may wish they weren't. They may wish they weren't Wall Street saviors. Try and guess who the Wall Street saviors are. Is it the U.S. taxpayer? Is it the government that is loaning money to these banks at 0% interest? Is it the ones who are not frog marching these people? No. Jamie Dimon. And I asked almost rhetorically the last week at the Council of Foreign Relations in Washington, asked, would I have done Bear Stearns knowing knowing what I know today? It's really close. Wow. Shed a tear for this guy. Some of the strongest firms during the crisis that acquired failing banks at the behest of the government forced them to do it. And by government, what we're talking about is former Goldman Sachs banker Henry Paulson. We're all talking about former investment bank executives. The government. JP Morgan Chase, Wells Fargo, Bank of America among them have found themselves in the crosshairs of lawsuits brought by the government for activities related to deals they made under pressure from authorities. Really, pressure from authorities. And then, the graphs in this paragraph, in this piece, are just stunning. Whether you love or hate Wall Street. So I'm bringing you all, this is what's called bring the audience into the circle. So now we are all on the same side. Whether you love or hate Wall Street, everybody, we're here. Whether you want bankers to go to jail or not, well, everybody, come on. The recent series of suits brought by the government may have a profound impact on how businesses react to being asked to provide assistance when the next financial crisis arrives. I feel like there could be entire departments of universities that could give graduate study courses on that sentence. Listen carefully. I'm going to say this again. I mean, I wish if this entire program was on video, I would spend an hour just putting this sentence up on a screen so that you could read it. Whether you love or hate Wall Street, whether you want bankers to go to jail or not, the recent series of suits brought by the government may have a profound impact on how businesses react to being asked to provide assistance when the next financial crisis arrives. So somehow, what he's saying is that despite any of your opinions about what went on, this might affect their interest, their willingness. No, not even. We won't even go that far. It might have a big impact on how businesses react. So, in other words, this massive financial crisis might have an impact on how businesses, i.e. investment banks, because those are the only businesses we're talking about here, might react if the government comes a calling and begging for them to take the government money. Yeah, it might. And chances are they won't. Now, I want you to think about this as we walk through this. Because he mentions that Schneiderman's lawsuit claiming that JP Morgan Chase misrepresented and defrauded investors of certain mortgage securities. Damages are estimated high at $3 billion. The only problem is that multiple and fraudulent deceptive acts that the government alleged didn't take place at J.P. Morgan Chase. They happened at Bear Stearns during 2005 to 2007. Now, are we to believe that no one at J.P. Morgan Chase thought that there was anything wrong with Bear Stearns? We didn't know we had to accept liability. Now, of course, you have to go well deep into the piece to get to this graph. It's hard to believe that J.P. Morgan didn't come out ahead, or at least close to even, on the acquisition, given that Bear's 43-story headquarters on Madison Avenue was part of the deal. So in other words, even with this liability, everybody believes J.P. Morgan still going to come out ahead. Just on this deal. He goes on, if you ran a company, again, a company, as opposed to an investment bank, would you help participate in a bailout if you thought there was a chance the government might turn around and sue you later for the misdeeds of the company you're helping to save? Well, let's rephrase that question. Wasn't the whole point of all that we've been told? Hasn't Andrew Ross Sorkin written at least one piece saying we needed these bailouts or the entire financial system would have crashed? Would not J.P. Morgan Chase, Wells Fargo, and Bank of America crashed if none of this happened? So, in other words, there was some self-interest, aside from the fact that he already admits they've probably come out ahead on this anyways. There was also just survival at stake. Isn't that the whole point of all of this? Or have we forgotten that now? We were told, this is Armageddon. If you were a business, would you do this in the future? Well, if we're faced with financial Armageddon, why wouldn't I? Aside from the fact that I've already profited from this.
Well, and maybe now you could extract more promises, like we don't want to be held accountable for any liabilities. Maybe that will be the distinction in the future.
In fact, what I would say is, we have another financial Armageddon that we have been, at the very least, encouraging, because I don't think Wells Fargo and Bank of America or J.P. Morgan Chase is without fault in any of this. They're just going to go, I don't know if you remember this Andrew Ross Sorkin piece, but maybe we're going to have to get retroactive immunity, or the next contract's going to have to be we don't accept any liability. And it goes on to say, to question the whole notion of none of this is to suggest that the government should not hold those responsible for fraud or other misconduct accountable. But few of the lawsuits that the government has brought against the banks have anything to do with the culpability of those individuals who were actually responsible for the problems. Instead, the government is simply holding responsible the company's shareholders who were unlikely to have been shareholders at the time of the misdeeds. Does this really offer a deterrent effect, or is this just a nice way to garner headlines ahead of an election? Well, it might be a nice way to garner headlines ahead of an election, but there's a fundamental problem if government can't sue banks because we don't know if it's all the same shareholders. Because officials at corporations change. Corporations are not people. You can't. The executives are responsible, as usual, pay nothing. If there were, quote, deceptive acts, the government could and should bring cases, if not criminal, then civil, against the individuals. Can you imagine the day that that happens? What the Andrew Ross Sorkin piece would be? Fraud isn't something a company does. It's something people do. Wow. from your mouth to God's ears that corporations are not people. I just, unbelievable.
I will forever and always remember Andrew Ross Sorkin as the brilliant man who penned that brilliant piece around this time last year about how I went down to Occupy Wall Street to check it out.
The point that he went down to Occupy Wall Street is because individual bank officers called him.
No, I think it was actually a bank CEO.
Yes, and said, do I have something to worry about? Now, of course, at that time, the idea of holding any of these individuals responsible for this was completely out of bounds. That's crazy. These are businesses. You can't hold the individuals responsible for this stuff. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.